And this workflow that I'm about to show you completely changes the game for making presentation slides. And this is going to be a step-by-step walkthrough, so bear with me. It might get boring, but I promise you it's worth it. Building presentation slides is never fun. In fact, it's one of the least favorite things to do for many people, myself included. But it's also unavoidable. Whether you're a business owner, an employee, at some point in time, you've had to build slides and thought to yourself, we live in the age of AI. Why can't AI do this for me? And the answer is AI can do it for you. In fact, there's a number of different ways in which you can achieve this with AI. The first is what most people are already doing is they go to chat.openai or Gemini or Claude, whatever tool you want to use, and you will tell it that I want a presentation on this subject. This is what I'm thinking. This is the context. Build me a 5-slide presentation. And it'll spit out a response. Then they'll go into manually copy paste that into their presentation app of choice, like PowerPoint, Canva, whatever they're using. Does it save time? Yes. Does it save you from putting too much thought into it? Also, yes. But is it the most efficient way of using AI to build slides? No. The second way is through AI tools that claim that they can make presentation slides for you. And for the most part, they're actually pretty good. But they cost a pretty buck. For example, Prezi starts at around $5 a month, where you are limited by 500 credits. To get unlimited credits, you have to pay for the $15 per month plan. Then you have Gamma. Let's check out their pricing. They have a free tier, but you only have 400 AI credits. And in context, that's about 50,000 AI token inputs, which is, in comparison to the Plus plan, you get 100,000 token inputs for $8, but that gives you about 20 cards. So that's pretty much just 20 slides. And whether you like those slides or not, you're still getting charged those credits. But you have decided to learn about automation and AI. So why should you have to pay extra? The answer is you shouldn't. And this workflow that I'm about to show you completely changes the game for making presentation slides. And this is going to be a step-by-step walkthrough, so bear with me. It might get boring, but I promise you it's worth it. Let's get into it. So this is the workflow that actually creates those presentations for us. What it does is it starts off with a chat trigger that sends data to an OpenAI model and then all the way to an AI agent where it actually builds the content for the presentation slides, cleans up that data, and then it gets to building the slides one by one. Let's show you how this works. Inside the chat trigger, we're going to put in, let's say, build me a presentation deck on the importance of AI in business processes. Hit enter and watch the magic happen. And it's cleaning up the data from the AI agents, and I want to say boom. That's it. The presentation slide is done. And these are the presentation slides that it's built for us. One by one, you have the logo over here. You have the main title, the subtitle, and the bullet points. It needs a little bit of adjustment here and there, but you get the point. This is already saving us an insane amount of time by not having to copy paste all of this data into the presentation slides or asking ChatGPT to give us a bullet point for each slide and then copy pasting that and then going back to ChatGPT and then coming back to presentation slides. Now we're going to build this exact workflow. Start building this workflow from scratch, and to do that, when you're logged into n8n, the first thing you do is you select create workflow. When you're inside this canvas, you add the plus icon to add the first step, which is your trigger. You'll just click on it and then type chat, and then you add a chat trigger. Make the chat publicly no. Add field, allow filed uploads. This is probably going to be useful later, so I'm just going to add that in for now. And that's it. That's how you set up the chat trigger. The next node that you want to build over here is, because we want to build a presentation slide on Google Slides, we want to create a name for that file. So to do that, you open open OpenAI and you select it, and then you go to message a model, and the model that first you want to make sure that you connect your OpenAI account. To do that, you just click on create new credential. You put in your API key and organizational ID from OpenAI. If you don't know how to do that, we made a video on it, but you can also check out these docs on how you can get your OpenAI API key and organizational ID to set up your credentials on n8n. But we've already done that, so we're going to skip this step. And from the model list, I chose 4.0 Mini. Mini-me. He shall be mine, and I shall call him Mini-me. You select 4.0 Mini and give it a prompt. We want to give it a system prompt before anything else. I copied this from my previous workflow that I showed you. And it basically says, create a name of a presentation slide file based on the user input. For example, if the user inputs, make me a presentation on how to install WordPress on my website, the output would be something like presentation underscore this variable over here is today's date, and then underscore how to install WordPress, which is the actual subject line of the presentation. You can see the result over here where it says install presentation, and the variable becomes 11/8/2025, which is today's date. You go ahead and you save that, but before we can do that, we actually need some data over here to pull in a prompt for the chat model to actually know what it's processing. So we're going to open this chat model and we're going to give it some data. Build me a presentation deck on how to use n8n. We sent that over here, and then you see the chat input right there. The system message is going to be, the user message is going to be the chat input from the previous node. So the main prompt that it's actually going to work on using context from the system message is build me a presentation deck on how to use n8n. The next step that you're going to do is we need to create that presentation slide on Google Slides. And to do that, you just click on the plus icon and then search for Google Slides. Google Slides, and create a presentation. We already have our account set up from Google Accounts in n8n, but to connect that, you again have to click on create new credential, and it's not as straightforward as just signing in like it is for other Google nodes. So what you're going to have to do is, in another tab, go to console.cloud.google.com, and in this corner over here, create a new project, which we're going to call, let's call it, for the sake of the video, and hit create. It's going to take a little bit to create the project. And that's done. The project is created. Then you select the project. After selecting the project, the next thing that you have to do is go into this menu on the left-hand side and navigate to APIs and services. From the sub-menu, click on library. In the library section, search for all of the Google accounts that you want to attach. In this case, we're just going to attach Google Drive. Just type Drive. Look for Google Drive API and select Enable. Once it's enabled the API, you're going to see this screen. And the next API that we want to enable is for Slides. So just type Slides, go back to Library, and type Slides, hit Enter, go to Google Slides API, and hit Enable. Congratulations, Google Slides is also enabled. Now we need to start creating credentials. So from this section over here, we're going to navigate to Credentials. And we will select Configure Consent Screen before we can create the credentials. Click on create consent screen and then click on get started. Name your app n8n. Support email, just put in your email address over there. Select external, click next. Email address, again, just put in your email address over here. Click next, I agree. Read the data policy before you select I agree. Always read any policy or terms of agreement before you sign them or agree to them. Click continue and then click on create. Once it's done that, the next thing you have to do is go into audience. Once inside the audience tab, you have to add a test user, which in this case is yourself because you're using your own account to log in to Google from n8n. So just type in your email address and then click save. And there you have it. You have yourself saved as a test user. The last thing that we want to do is set up the actual client OAuth, which you do by going into clients and then selecting create client. In application type, select web application, name it. And over here in the authorized redirect URLs, you need to add in the URL which will be accessing your Google account. If you navigate back to your workflow, you'll see that it's given over here in n8n inside the main screen where you were asked to set up your credentials. So just go ahead and click that to copy it. Go back to your cloud console and click on add URL, paste it in over here and hit create. This is creating your consent screen. And there you have it. You have your client ID and you have your client secret. Copy these in. Client ID over here. Client secret over here. And then you should have that sign in with Google button pop up. Click it. And you have another window pop up to ask you to actually sign in to your account. So just select your account. You might see the screen. Just go ahead and click continue. Select all. And continue. And there you have it. The connection has been successfully set up. Once you've signed in, go back to your Google Slides account and select on resource, presentation, operation, create, and the title is what we're going to get from OpenAI. But there's no information over there because we haven't run that specific node. So to do that, we'll basically run this node. And now we have data from OpenAI. So we just pull in that content variable into title. Now that you have that done, you just click on create a presentation. Click the play button. It'll create the presentation for you. And you go back into your presentation doc. And you see over here that it has a presentation created with presentation, today's date, and the name of the presentation itself. I said presentation way too many times in that sentence. So the next step is to share the file that this step over here created. So to do that, you just add in your drive, Google Drive, and select share file. Change from list to by ID. From the left-hand side, drag presentation ID into the box over here and execute the step. Again, you're going to have to set up your OAuth client, but just follow the same steps that we showed you earlier. But this time you're adding in you've already enabled Google Drive inside the APIs when we were doing the setup the first time. All you have to do is copy your client ID and client secret into the screen when you're signing in, and you should be good to go. And just click on execute step to see if it's working. Please check your parameters. Aha. So the issue is that add permission. We never added any permission to file. So the permission that we need to add is writer and select anyone. Now click on execute step. And there you have it. In the next step, we're going to define how many slides we're actually making. So to do that, just click on set fields and add a field over here. Say, let's call it total underscore slides. And the value is 5. You can execute that step, but there's really nothing for it to execute. The next node that we're going to add is the AI agent, which actually builds the content for the slides that we're going to be building. So go on to Google Agent. Go on to the AI agent node, and over here change the source for prompt to define below. And in the prompt, we're going to provide it with: you are an AI presentation builder. Given the topic, this is a variable from the chat input, which you can drag and drop from over here. And slide count. Let's do that together. Let's remove this. The topic is the chat input. So make sure that you have expression selected over here. Otherwise, when you drag the variable into the box, it's going to be all janky. And slide count. Let's go ahead and delete that as well. We're going to drag and drop the edit fields variable that we created right over here. Generate a slide-by-slide breakdown of slide titles and bullet points in JSON format. Each slide should contain a title, subtitle, and at least 5 detailed bullet points. And this is the format that we want you to build the slides in. Let's expand that so you can take a good look, take a screenshot, type it out inside your workflow when you're building it. And that's it for the AI agent. Or is it? Yeah, that's it for this specific box. Click outside and give it a chat model, because the AI agent can't work without an actual AI engine in the hood, right? So to do that, we select OpenAI from list, select any model that you want to use. I'm going to use 4.0 Mini because I care about costs. And that's it. The next step is going to be a cleanup of the data that we receive from AI agent. But to show you why we need to clean that data, let's initiate the whole thing first. Build me a presentation on how to get the lighting right. Once it's done, might take a little bit to get that step done. Just hang in there. That's done. And this is what your data looks like, right? Not the best for building presentations with. So in the next step, what we're going to do is we will add a code node, where we're going to delete all of this crap. Copy this code into this over here. I'm going to leave a link somewhere in the description where you can download this code from. I wouldn't expect you to build this from scratch, so that's that. Once that's done, just click on the play icon and wait for it to run the script. And the output is going to look a little bit like this. Title, subject, bullets. Boom, boom, and boom. That's why we needed to clean up that data so that we could get the actual data for the presentation inside this format. The next step is going to be the most fun step. In fact, it's the most fun I had while building this workflow, because I spent at least 2 hours, so that you wouldn't have to, into building a loop for n8n to run in order to build each slide bit by bit. To do that, you have to click on the plus icon and then select loop. Loop over times. The batch size is going to be the same as we set in the edit fields over here, which is total slides is 5. Go ahead and click outside and then move to the next node, which is again going to be a set fields node. So you see this where it says replace me? That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to replace it. Delete it, or just add a new one, delete it later. This is again going to be set fields. And okay, so to set these fields, follow this exact formula that I have, or copy the exact fields that I created, which look like this, right? Let's get into it. So the first field is going to be logo underscore str. Logo underscore str. It's a string value, and over here I'm just going to put in my logo. Cool. And the next field that we're going to add is going to be a subtitle str. Subtitle str. And the value is going to look like this. Just copy paste, write it exactly as I have. I will leave a link of this as well for you to copy paste so that you don't have to go around debugging the workflow. The next field is going to be, did I put in subtitle? Classic. I put in subtitle before subtitle. I put in subtitle before title. So put in title str first and copy this, paste this here, and then create another field, call it subtitle str. Copy this, paste this. Value is going to be this over here. And the next field that we're going to create is going to be called bullets underscore text. Again, a string value, and you're just going to copy paste this whole thing over here and input it over there. See, these are all string values, and the last one that we create is actually going to be an object, which we're going to call IDs. And this in string, click it, select object, and in the value, you're going to copy paste this over here. And that's it for the edit fields node. That's done. Let's make it pretty. The next code, the next node is going to be your, what's it going to be? It's going to be an HTTPS request to Google Slides. Now, hang in there. This is going to get a little bit complicated, but I'm going to provide you the exact code and the exact URL to add over here so that there's no guesswork involved. God knows that the tutorial that I saw was all over the place, where the guy just didn't mention any of this, where to get the code, how to set it up, and I was left scratching my head and figuring it out on my own. But you don't have to do that because you're watching my video. Sorry about that. If you go to Google and you search for API reference for Google Slides, you're going to land on this page. Okay, this is how you're going to land on this page. Search presentation API, Google Slides API reference, and then you're going to see this result over here. Just click it. And once you're here, the one that we're using is actually the batch update method. So go ahead and copy that. Yeah. And method is going to be post, and the URL. So when you select, okay, let's do it from scratch. Click plus, select HTTP request. Method is going to be post, not patch. Paste this over here, and this is going to be a dynamic value of the presentation slide. And to get that dynamic value, we will again have to run this. Let's see if that works. Or we're going to have to end up running the whole thing again. Let's hope we don't. So presentation, create a presentation. Aha, we have the presentation ID. So delete this until the semicolon and scroll down to create a presentation node and drag it into, see, we didn't have expression selected. So select expression and drag it into, come on, over here. And we have, no, see, we did the wrong thing. We have to update it before the semicolon. Oh, yeah. That's it. Batch update. Once you have that done, you need to switch on the send body bit. And in the body content type, make sure that you have JSON written. And in the specify body using fields below, you need to select using JSON. And you get this little pretty JSON box. Inside this JSON box, we have to put in a specific bunch of code, which is basically Google Apps Script. That'll update each slide manually using the content that it generated in the previous nodes. So just put that code in. And remember, I'm going to give you this code, so all you have to do is copy paste it into your workflow. And once you've done that, go down, make sure it's all there, and click out. That's pretty much the last step. And the last step is actually going to be the wait node. We're going to make it wait for about 5 seconds before executing again, just to make sure that it gets everything in the first go. And delete this. And you have the workflow ready. So I made a little bit of a mistake where I didn't define this URL correctly inside the HTTP request, which we're going to correct right now. Just go ahead and this and this. So it had to have the https://slides.googleapis.com, and then it needs to have the presentation ID from Google, which is going to be over here. And just put that in, and it should solve that. We made another mistake. In this authentication box over here, we never actually set up any authentication. So let's go ahead and do that before we run the actual workflow. To do that, just go ahead and select on predefined credential type. Credential type is going to be Google. What's it going to be? Google Slides OAuth 2 API. And you'll notice that your account pops up over here. Everything else stays the same. Let's try this again. Presentation on how to build good habits. Let's go. That's what we want to look for. The node executed successfully. It's done. Let's see what. Now let's take a look at the presentation slides that it's actually built us. Not bad, not bad. And that's it. We just built a workflow that creates presentations all by itself, all just by giving it a specific input. You're not paying anyone any extra. Yes, it costs you some API credits, but that's really it. API credits can be really, really cheap. Depends on which model you use. I'm going to wrap it up over here. All of the links are inside the description. Check them out. Download the whole workflow so that you don't have to worry about copy pasting stuff. I'm just going to leave a link to the actual workflow inside the description where you can download it and start setting up your credentials to get the workflow going. If you haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate if you did. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next one.